Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes for people to filter through, and then we'll get started. Hello to those just joining us. I'm just going to give it another couple of minutes just for some people to join us, and then we'll get cracking on. All right, we'll get started, and I'll let some people in as they're joining as we go along. So hello, everybody, and thank you for joining. This is our first of our CX community events in 2022. So very excited to welcome you all back, some familiar faces. So thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for giving up your time on a Monday morning. Those in the UAE, that's your new working week for some of you or all of you. Today we're going to be talking about who should own CX in the organization. We'll be getting onto that in just a few minutes. I'm Richard Kennedy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of ARCET Global, and we run the Customer Centricity World Series, which is a recognition program for those who are doing CX around the world. Entries are closing this Friday, so if you are an organization looking to get recognition, or you know somebody who should be getting recognition for the excellent work that they're doing in customer experience, they have until Friday to register, and they can enter up to 3 categories for free. But don't worry, they have plenty of time to fill in the entry forms after that. So it's not a big rush for Friday for them to get the entry done. They just need to register by Friday. So the agenda today, I'm going to do a quick welcome. Then I'm going to introduce you to our fantastic panel of Hussein, Craig, and Adel. And then they will introduce themselves in a little bit more depth, tell you who they are and what they do. And then we will have our opening statement on who should own CX in the organization. And then the way that these webinars work is it's an open discussion. So this is a forum for you to ask your questions, throw out your own ideas, join in. It's a very relaxed atmosphere here. I'll just be acting as a mediator to make sure that everybody's not talking over each other. So if you want to speak, either pop your name in the chat or just shout out or put your hand up, whichever way, we'll figure it out from there. So please keep yourself on mute until then. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Thank you very much for joining us. So shall we start with you, Hussein, to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Richard. Hi, everyone. So I'm Hussein Dajani, and I'm the General Manager of Digital and Customer Experience Transformation for Nissan Motor Corporation in Africa, Middle East, India, Turkey, and Oceania. In short, I'm basically responsible for every single touch point, be it on the digital side or physical side, that any existing or potential customer has got with the brand. And that entitles so many deliverables, which I'm sure we will talk on about during this session or upcoming ones. Thank you.
Welcome, Hussein. Thanks for giving up your time. Adel, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Richard. Hello, everybody. My name is Adel. I am the head of marketing and promotion and brand at Saudi Exports. It's a government entity responsible for promoting non-oil exports of Saudi Arabia. We recently launched a marketing program called Saudi Made, which basically brands everything that is made in Saudi with one logo to unify the experience, basically. So I'm responsible for the experience of thousands of products, of thousands of different companies under the umbrella of Saudi Made.
Welcome, Adel. Thank you. And one of our regulars, and man that needs no introduction, but you may as well introduce yourself, Craig.
Thank you, Richard. Craig Lee. I look after customer experience transformation for companies that are wanting to go through change. And my main focus is to help leaders join the dots between their business, their employees, and their customers to create sustainable business that's also profitable. So I love this topic because I think it sits right at the heart of everything to do with experience. And I use experience in the broadest sense, not just CX. And leaders really need to step up if they want to play in that space. So thank you for inviting us and look forward to the panel.
Welcome, welcome. So we'll kick off with the big question of today, which is who should own CX in the organization? And who would like to go first with their opening statement on this?
Shall I?
Yeah, well, Hussein, you came up with the idea, so it's only fair to let you have first stab at it.
So I'll tell you, the answer is based on my experience. And throughout the last 5 years working in the customer experience space, I took notice of let me start with pre-2020. And I will tell you that pushing the customer experience agenda hasn't been an easy process at all. Because when you work in customer experience, you work cross-functionally. So you have to work with every single department over there. You can put the strategy, but in order to steer the ship, you will need the participation of everybody inside the organization in order to be able to navigate. What I can tell you that's what really helped speed up customer experience projects or the customer centricity at Nissan was COVID. And it was when the chairman, when the regional vice president got involved. This is when really things started really moving at a very fast pace. And this is where it gave me a very strong, if you want, alibi to go to senior management and tell them, unless customer experience is owned by your office, it's going to take us so much time to be able to steer the ship and to move it to where we want it to. So if I am to summarize all of that, I truly believe that customer experience, for it to grow, for it to materialize, it needs to be driven by the CEO's office or the senior management's office. Without their involvement in it, it will happen, but it will take you triple or quadruple the amount of time that it would take when they are involved in it. Let's be completely honest. Multinational companies, they are still hierarchical. They very much are driven top down versus startups, which is very much, you know, the whole team together. So unless the top of the mountain is driving the agenda, it's very hard for things to navigate, for things to move, and for things to be given the priority and importance to them. This is in my humble opinion.
Thanks, Hussein. Adel, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in organizations or worked with organizations that have operationally CX department under marketing, which is pretty common. But then I've been also with organizations that have the CX department under the commercial officer, for example, where they also design it. And I've seen organizations that have the CX department under IT. Now, what works, what doesn't work? And now, clearly, if you want to have the best results, I support what Hussein was saying, that the CEO has to be involved firsthand in every step of the way, wherever it goes. But how do you decide as an organization, where should your CX be? Because CX is heavy digital. If you are, for example, a tech company, then maybe IT should have it. If you are a heavy product design company, a heavy commercial company, then maybe the sales should have it. I would say whoever, and then I'm talking about personalities, whoever the person that stands up first, puts their hand up and say, I'm gonna take that file, I'm gonna take that onward and upward with the CX department, especially with new organizations that are trying to, or older organizations that are trying to go through a transformation, then I would give it to that person, the one with more passion. Then it can be under IT, marketing, or sales. I know it's not sustainable to maybe decide that. However, it will start the process, and then maybe by the end of this conversation, we will know where it should be in an organization. We can all settle this question once and for all.
I don't think we're ever going to come to a consensus between everybody, but we can try. We can definitely try and hammer it out this morning. It was interesting what you were saying there, Adel, because I've just been having a conversation this morning about creating internal influencers in an organization to create change. And that's sort of what you were touching on there, that it doesn't matter who's owning it as long as they're passionate about CX. And going to push that change forward. So yeah, it was really interesting to hear you echo the words that we've already heard this morning.
Richard, I just want to, I'm sorry, I'm jumping back in here, because if we're laying the papers down on the table, you know, openly, let's be completely honest, and let's not be ashamed by naming it. Multinational organizations work in silos, and this is their biggest issue. You see, it's always about which department is going to be taking the credit for the work that's being done. So if we go and put customer experience in one department versus the other, there's always going to be that rivalry or that opposition or that defensiveness as to don't step into my department, or why are you coming and doing this in my department? It's my responsibility. And hence why I say it has to go all the way to the top. Because once it's governed by the top, the departments don't have a say anymore as to who's going to be able to do it or not. They're going to be having a reporting line all the way to the top, and this will help break the silos. This will help open the unhealthy competition that's happening, and this is from one angle. From the other angle is customer experience is something fairly new in organizations. It started as a department reporting into the marketing function, but then the marketing function, if you read any trends report, they're telling you what is the future of the marketing function. Is it still under marketing, or is it forming into customer experience? So again, there is that big question mark over there as to do we still use marketing, or do we go into experience?
Yeah. I have a different view on that, Hussein. I think that companies that are wanting to become customer-centric, in other words, truly deliver to their customers outside in, need to be able to own this globally. And that sits in the C-suite. For far too long, CX, like CRM before it, and I'm old enough to remember CRM, and everything was going to help relationship manage. We still don't have good relationships with customers, and we've got the best technology in the world. So my view is that unless the mindset of the leadership sees the importance of the customer at the front end, no amount of projects or activities are going to make those organizations customer-centric. So I want to challenge that in a little bit to say that I go back to sort of a Professor Deming approach, where all companies only have two jobs. You're either serving the customer, or you're serving the people who are serving the customer. And our organizations at the moment, multinationals and small ones, are not set up to serve each other. There's no servant leadership, mentorship in a company to say, this is what good looks like. Now, in many experiences that I've had in the C-suite, invariably, you don't even hear the word customer being spoken about in a board meeting. And yet these are the same companies who are saying we are customer-centric. So I put a big BS to that analogy. And at best, they're getting customer focused because they're starting to focus on some things that are becoming embarrassing for them not to focus on, that also affect the customer. So I want to be quite controversial about this in terms of saying that unless the C-suite understands the impact of the customer on its own business, all we're going to see is either new technologies that are supposed to do CX or new products that do CX, and we turn CX into another task that has to be done. So I think for me, CX should never be a function. CX is a competence that you're trying to build across your business, whether it's in IT, whether it's in finance, whether it's in marketing. So I certainly am not a proponent of marketing-owned CX, because marketing today is strongly digitized and predominantly focused on acquisition. And because of that, we see nothing happening in the business to retain customers. And CX premises itself on building stronger relationships with customers and helping customers stay longer by focusing on their true needs. So I could go on for a long time on that, but that's my sort of starting point, is to say CX is owned by the C-suite. And if nobody in the C-suite is bold enough to own CX, it shouldn't be called CX. Call it a new IT program or a new marketing program, but don't call it CX. Thanks, Rich.
I completely agree with you. You couldn't have said it better, Craig. But I will challenge on one point, in the sense of, and I'm talking this based on my experience over the last 5 years. I don't think we would have reached where we are today with the C-suite at Nissan if CX didn't start actually in a department. You see, they're call me the scapegoat in the organization, because there has to be somebody who goes through the pain in order for education to really happen, and for suddenly, you know, the flag of customer experience starts being raised inside the organization.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you on that one, because the question that we're trying to answer is who should own CX in the company, and I'm saying the C-suite should own CX in the company. Where does CX start? If your CEO is not on side, and there is a passion, to Adel's point, there's a passion for somebody who says, we really need to focus on customers, then it's a huge task to push things uphill, as you know, from your experience in your current position, and my previous experience with Emirates Airlines. It takes a long, long time, if people are not aligned, to start to build those, joining those dots between various people, to start to see what the future could look like. So it's a bit of both in terms of where should it be incubated, what does it start with? And I think it's really important to start with something where you can show people what CX looks like, not tell them what CX should be. So if it's a project, if it's a major program of work, then that's the right way to go. But you need to know that it's truly sponsored from the top, because I've seen so often, again, in the C-suite, and let's face it, it's a very lonely spot. It's a very lonely place for leaders to lead a discipline that they have very little experience in, because they want to make sure they're supporting it, but not necessarily having to put their hand up to own it. Show me that it's going to work, help me get it to work, then I'll own it a little bit more. So we fully understand that component. As you know, when the C-suite owns it, magic happens. I see Motaz has had his hand up, so I don't know if you have a question there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Craig. I always get passionate when I, find amazing leaders talking about CX. So a little bit of introduction. My name is Motaz, born and raised in the UAE. Extremely passionate about customer experience and helping companies, and that perception about what companies think customer experience is and what is it actually, right? So in the past 20 years, so I've started from bottom, just worked with many organizations, worked with HSBC, Amazon, cryptocurrency, Rain. I worked in many organizations. What's common between them, they have a misperception about what customer experience is. To them, and this is a problem in the region, right? So to them, customer experience is customer support, but with a new word or a new title, right? And that's the huge, misunderstanding that organizations, and you do not get that engagement of people for them to understand what customer experience is. So the question in who to own CX, well, it all depends on that passion that's going to work, right? Yes, it does fit in. It has to come in from top bottom, cannot come in from bottom up, right? Because you need to have everyone in the company aligned with that strategy. But before that, they need to understand what CX is, right? So CX, many people have different perceptions about what CX or understand. Some people say, okay, CX is the perception of what customers think about the service or brand, right? What I learned is CX is actually an experience within an experience. So it's not only the total perception about the service and product, but also the interaction. And customer support is the last branch that actually supports the whole customer experience journeys that you have. So I just wanted to add, who is it? Is it marketing? Is it IT? On my personal opinion, it's everyone, right? But there should be a gatekeeper that understands how to gather all that data and understand the feelings, what customers would want. Because at the end of the day, all companies, they have a problem. They know how to fix it. They're introducing the problem or product or service, and they just want to understand. And they look at things that this is what I think the customer experience is. But it's not that, right? We need to understand what customers actually feel and want and know about your brand itself. And it's not one department again. And I highly, whatever position or company I work with, it's everyone involved in it. And something that is extremely linked to CX is EX, right? So I'm a big fan of, pamper your employees will pamper your customers. But you need to have a foundation of the proper tools, the proper data available, the proper skill set, and people to live and feel about what customer experience is, and not the other way around. So normally, 10 years ago, it was, there's nothing called customer experience. It was just the customer support left on the side and the company on, the other side of the world, just doing what they think is right. But now companies are evolving, and we as leaders need to deliver that message and explain, number one, what CX is and the value that CX brings within that company. Thank you so much, guys.
I have to resonate a lot with what Mata said, because since 2020, and I would say 60 to 70% of organizations' employees are working from home. You see, what keeps an organization together is the culture within that organization. If you don't have a proper employee experience in place, the culture in the organization will get to fade out bit by bit, and they kind of lose track of the purpose of what they're trying to achieve out there. I think employee experience is extremely important, and I'll be very honest with you. I can maybe count on one hand the organizations which have a set EX in place. I've spoken to so many people. EX does not exist in their organizations, and that's a very scary thing. So again, what's happening is we're seeing things evolving at a very fast pace, be that from the digital world, be that from the customer experience world, be that from the employee experience world. Things are moving very fast. And I think organizations haven't taken a step back to really reevaluate what's happening inside their organization and in the marketplace and in their country, in order to be able to reevaluate how they would be future ready. So if we want to talk about who owns the customer experience, we need to start back and putting what are the criteria that leads you into who owns the customer experience. Because at the end of the day, organizations are not NGOs. At the end of the day, organizations have got metrics to meet in order to meet shareholders' value of investing in the company. So again, what metrics does customer experience lead to? How do we measure customer centricity? and so on and so forth. So it's easy to put it on a paper. It's easy to discuss it in a forum, but it's a much bigger task than that.
So Hussein, I agree with you on the measures, because I think that the CEO's KPI, remember I said at the start, I'm not talking about customer experience, because organizations are an ecosystem of things happening. It's the HR side, it's the marketing side, it's the IT side. Somebody has to be joining the dots. Somebody has to be interpreting and helping people collaborate. It won't happen naturally because finance has given us all cost centers, and cost centers create war. They don't create participation and collaboration. So, and this is particularly interesting in CX, and I was very fortunate to have a very good leader at one stage who said, here's your budget, use this to supplement other people's budgets. So whenever one part of the business and IT said, oh, we don't have a budget to do something, I said, what do you have? Oh, we've got this, okay, I'll make up the rest. And suddenly you got a collaborative mindset instead of people just stopping that. But I want to come back to the sort of a proposal is to put on as a CEO's KPI, the fact that they should be KPI'd on return on experience. Not the ROI of customer experience, but the return on experience. How well are their leaders leading the experience? How well are their employees delivering the experience? And how well are their customers seeing and rating the experience that's been delivered? And if, to Motaz's point, if we were then able to collate all the data that's coming from social media, that's coming from feedback, that's coming from employee feedback, that will all go back into a virtuous cycle to reinform the strategy of the organization, reinform what leaders need to do slightly differently, to tweak things, to get employees to deliver with a little bit more engagement with them. And then finally, to the point that great customer experience can really only be delivered through great employee experience. So I think, again, it comes back to how are we measuring the total experience, and is that even a KPI for the CEO or the company? And at this stage, not. But to Adel's earlier point, when you say marketing could own a CX, or depending on the type of company, or IT could own CX depending on the type of company. And I think Gene Bliss talks a lot about that in terms of power bases. What's the language of your company? If it's sales, then it's probably going to be sales-led. But the point I'm trying to make here is that for it all to work, the ownership may not necessarily be that. So what you're starting to see in really large organizations is you're starting to see the emergence of a role for chief customer officer that has IT reporting to it, has marketing reporting to it, and has ops reporting to it. So it's an Uber role. And that's the challenge for CX practitioners around the table. One is, how are you going to keep CX alive by really defining what CX is and what it isn't? And then how are you going to be able to convert that into a meaningful Uber role that has a place at the boardroom table where all those other elements can be brought together.
Thanks, Greg. Farhan, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hello everyone. Good morning from Dubai. A very interesting discussion. Good to hear some of my good friends, Craig, Motaz, Hussein. Lovely to see all of you. A lot of other great faces. I'm quite intrigued with this discussion, as it's been quite a few years now that we're having this discussion. Who owns it? Who owns CX? And I think if we have not come to this conclusion even now, it scares me that organizations are still debating this concept that who owns it. So forget about how to implement and how to reach your results when you don't even know who's gonna own this. And I think it's a very interesting discussion, and all these points are quite valid. Yes, everybody owns it, but somebody needs to be a gatekeeper unless and until somebody's responsible. Just like you have a head of marketing. I mean, marketing is, you have a head of sales, you have a head of finance. You have to have somebody to own it so that that person brings everybody together. And it's not an easy job. Being in that role, Hussein, all of you and Craig, I mean, I've run it from some of the largest banks here as well. It's a very difficult task. When something goes right, everybody owns it. When something goes wrong in customer experience, nobody owns it. And then it's the finger goes to the head of the customer experience or that CX head and says, oh, he's responsible because customer is not happy. But when everybody starts winning awards, then everybody wants an ownership on this. So it's a very interesting discussion. But another discussion that has been part of this particular one, which is also where does it sit? Who should own customer experience, and who should customer experience head be reporting to? Should it be under marketing? Should it be under? So my opinion to that would be, and I was always been a very big advocate, it should be an independent. I was very privileged when I was working for Citibank. I used to report directly to the CEO. Because tomorrow you're going to publish numbers, you're going to publish indicators, KPIs, related to every unit. And if you're sitting under any particular unit, there is a chance of a bias. You're going to work with external agencies, you're going to work with internal stakeholders. You have to be an independent. I wouldn't use the word we are auditors, we are not, but we are the voice of the customer, and voice of the customer needs to be independent. And see. So this is a very interesting discussion. Just wanted to put some points across.
Thanks, Farhan. Akram, you sent a message through earlier. I don't know whether you wanted to come off mute and voice your thoughts. If not, then I'm happy to read it out for you.
Okay, hello everyone. I was just leaving it up for you, Mr. Arranger, to sort of decide. Am I heard?
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to agree with everyone because every one of you seems to have actually tackled one or the other aspect of CX. I've been for over 40 years in the customer engagement flurry of activities, from market research to CRM to CX to everything else. I've always found out that, as Craig mentioned, that there is somewhere resistance at some point, at some place in the organization. There's first a resistance to change from an existing order to a new order. And the sad thing is that nowadays corporations have got so much on their plate, ranging from transforming themselves into a proper CX-minded or CX organized corporation to looking at sustainability, equality, gender equality at work, and all these newer and then more contemporary obligations that corporations are expected to abide by, that it is quite difficult to really address all the CX requirements. I'll summarize my thoughts. Initially, there must be like a CX function or process or program established within a corporation. It must have buy-in from the top authority, usually a CEO or an MD. Now, the MD or the CEO, the top leader, has also to assign clear functions about who works on strategy, who works on implementation, who works on reading feedback. Craig mentioned that there is an essential KPI to be built in right from the beginning. We don't only measure what the experience our customers have, we also measure how good have we been at towing the line of the experience model, at the new experience model, at actually returning on the experience effort or investment that has been there. So many things to be done. But all that boils down to proper planning. I'm sorry, there's a simple homework to be done. Plan, organize, program, put the right people in the right place, and move on from there. And as Craig mentioned, always measure, so that whoever is the leader of this program always gets back some sort of intellectual reward or feedback, that is it working? Is it delivering? Is it this? Is it that? And so on and so forth. Without that, without this kind of tangible, and I must insist on the word tangible, it is quite difficult to get change adopted in a corporation if we do not convert the intangible into tangibles. And I must confess, this has been the hardest goal of a person like myself, who has been always holding hands corporations in order for them to move from current state to future state. Thank you.
Thanks, Akram.
Richard, I would like to propose a little experiment, maybe on all the attendees. Maybe we can all join and try to figure out some numbers and statistics out of this. So I'm guessing that everyone here is interested in CX, but are you a CX department employee, and do you report to a marketing department or to an IT department or to an operation department? If you could just mention quickly, what department do you report to currently? That will give us an idea about who is our audience right now. And another question would be afterwards, where do you think the CX should be? And that will give us an idea that if everyone is marketing, but all of them think it should be in marketing, then maybe that should be the answer. There should be a functional department under marketing or with marketing that does that. So I'm curious to see the answers.
So if everybody can just fire that into the chat quickly, we've already had quite a few. We've got Hussein says marketing, Christy sales and marketing, Motaz to CEO or founders, Linda says marketing, Rasha CX department, Shveta says head of division and report to company founder. Asnan Tower customer service department, Tian CX department reporting to operations. Craig says the CEO. Bala, nice to see you. CX reporting into marketing. Naima, CEO and the board. Dunia, operations. Utpal, CX is headed by sales and IT and reported to the CEO. Syed says shared services. Diana says CX reports to CEO. Farhan says CEO/board. Christy, operations. Lamek says sales. And Clinton says CEO. So that's quite a mix of marketing, CEO and board level, and then a few operations thrown in there as well.
I think what was missing from that question is something very important. Is it a multinational organization or is it a local/regional? That kind of plays a very big role in it, to be very, very honest with you.
Yeah, I think you're right there, but it's the mindset again that I come back to. It doesn't matter how big or small the organization is. It's the mindset around how important customers really are to helping you divine and design new products. Yeah, how many companies start with their customers to design a new product? Or is it spray and pray? You know, you sort of get something out there and you see how far it can spread and hopefully you're successful and all the other things line up. I just wanted to come back to this idea of just pragmatically looking at who owns it. So give you an example. You've all probably got one or two little things in your experience with clients, maybe digital, maybe otherwise, that are tiny bug fixes, but actually major problems for a client. And you as program managers of customer experiences are unable to get your IT department to fix those minor bugs, to implement and do something major for a customer, because it's not sexy enough and there's not a big enough budget behind it for IT to really think this is wow. So everybody's mindsets are slightly different. You know, we talk about the migration that we've seen from call centers very rapidly to fully functioning contact centers. That's brilliant, because suddenly we realize it needs to be multi-channel, it needs to handle web, it's the same skill set that sits there, but before, these used to be different parts of the business. We've been forced, as you were saying, Corona's been fantastic in the sense that it's actually forced people to collaborate more effectively to hit the client in a positive way. And then, of course, we've got this whole other debate going on about we used to talk about channels, and we started speaking about multi-channel. Now we're talking about omni-channel. And the customer's talking about channel-less. We don't care what channel. We want to come in wherever we want to and talk whichever way we want to. And you know what? You keep telling us how great your digital experience is. You tell us how big your data lakes and your data pools are. You better know us, regardless of where we come in. So that's the channel. Who looks after it? IT? Marketing? Sales? Don't think so.
Thanks, Craig. Bala, you had your hand up. I just want to jump in to see whether you wanted to voice your opinions.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Richard. Hi. Good morning, all. Can you hear me clearly?
It's a little bit crackly.
Yeah, I think I'm in a pretty bad sort of connection. But I just have a couple of thoughts on this, just to add to the discussion. What I feel when it comes to ownership, I just want to pick from what Craig had mentioned initially on CX being a competence and not a function, right? So how we bake CX into everything we do across the organization should be our focus. So typically what needs to happen is that CEO owns it. Obviously, it has to be driven by the C-suite. And every C-suite owner, right? So we're talking about chief technology officer, chief operations, chief of finance. All of them need to figure out how do they translate customer experience into what they do in their departments. Then ultimately the CX function, it doesn't matter where it sits. It could be in marketing, it could be reporting to operations, could be reporting to IT for all you know, or even HR these days. The function of the CX team is being a facilitator, right? The KPIs of each of the departments and the teams have CX built into it. So there is no one sitting separately as a CX function trying to push the agenda of CX. It's in their own interest for each department to see how CX is being impacted by what they do in their departments. So what I feel is that's how this needs to flow. The CEO sets the vision, sees how CX is being translated into each of those C-suite heads, and they in turn cascade it to the departments to see how it fits into the objectives of each of the team players. And CX function, wherever it sits, coordinates and make sure that everything goes well.
So I think if I could comment on what Bala mentioned is we've been fortunate enough to build something called the Customer Experience Steering Committee. Thing is, because we understood that, yes, okay, I'm heading the Customer Experience Department, but because we wanted to get everybody's buy-in into what we're doing, and more important, we wanted to break the silos, we created a Customer Experience Steering Committee where we went to every single department and we presented to them what exactly we're trying to do. And we asked them to nominate one person in their department who will champion customer experience in their own function. And that gentleman or lady will sit with us on the Customer Experience Steering Committee, where on a monthly basis we meet together and we discuss the overall organization's customer experience plans. And we share what we're doing each department, what are the pain points we're facing, what are the challenges we're facing, what performance have we achieved. We noticed with time that this steering committee is actually driving things much faster. And yes, true, we as a customer experience department, we are the ones who are driving it, but it's co-owned ownership from everybody, from every single department. Now, the only thing that's missing is that customer experience steering committee reporting directly to the C-suite. And I think this will be the ideal format of it.
I agree with you, Hussein. There, I think so many CX activities or projects don't find the right governance around a program of work. You know, it's like VOC. For some people, VOC is a piece of technology. For other people, it's a whole program of work to get better at getting your employee experience, your customer experience all into one data source. So it's the same sort of thing. If you can achieve, to Farhan's point, if you can achieve C-suite sponsorship with the CEO owning the program, a really strong program manager who could be what we call today the CX department, that is coordinating and putting the governance in place for everybody else to play, then there's the C-suite visibility together with really good program governance that's constantly tweaking and pushing things forward. Some things go into the back burner, but it gives the flexibility that all the elements related to CX are moving forward slowly in a sort of in a growing way, as opposed to some things just stopping and then disappearing, and then nobody believes that CX helps.
So I want to throw an idea and maybe a question. I've been suffering through it for a few years. We do have committees in some of the organizations I work with, and those committees from various department members, they meet weekly or monthly, and they bring a report. But usually the main focus of these committees is customer service and customer care problems and issues and open tickets and what has been updated, or long-term project overviews and track. But when that happens in an organization, it becomes systematic, it becomes organized. Then they are on top of each problem. Then if a ticket is open and then the issue is an IT issue or a manpower issue, or then it's tracked and solved, that's fine. But then in one of those committees, it became so systematic, it became boring. There is no development in it. There is no, what is the next thing in CX? How can we improve further? Is it a retail improvement? Is it an IT adoption? Is it a new technology? So that discussion of the next step, it becomes out of that committee. So again, we say then maybe the solution, and I don't have that, maybe the solution is create another committee. So is that feasible? And now asking also the chairs in the webinar, who else should be, how many committees should there be? I understand the relevance of or the importance of having a committee that oversees and tracks everything that is going on different levels. But again, in my personal opinion, and maybe I am biased because of my marketing background, I think that marketing being, personally, I believe, the most innovative department usually, they should also lead a CX innovation and CX forward thinking.
Motaz, do you want to jump in there?
Yes, thank you. 100% agree with Hussein, and I also agree with Adel, right? So mainly many organizations, they find the CX initiative, they go crazy. First couple of months, amazing. Everyone is excited about it. But then by time it dies off, right? It becomes like what Adel said, systematic, right? People get boring. And that's what customer experience is. So whoever is the gatekeeper needs to always keeps it engaged and exciting. And how is that done? So if you ask me, how do I do it? I always involve all departments, and I have continuous collaboration sessions with them. Again, when the expert comes in, or when a passionate CX, or when a company is so passionate about a CX, it needs a gatekeeper to get that DNA, CX DNA in each and every one of them, right? So if you have the employee experience top of the notch, if you have a clear CX strategy, that involves everyone, right? So one thing that Farhan said is everyone thinks that CX is the auditor, right? And here comes what I always say, it's not what you say, but how do you deliver that message to other colleagues and other leaders and head of functions and CEOs for them to collaborate together and make sure that's a company-wide initiative and not just a department, a CX department. So for me, I always believe CX is an isolated department that should report directly to the CEO and founder, full stop, right? And the reason for that is not because, you know, you wanna be the top man, and you wanna, you know, steer code everyone and tell everyone what to do and what not to do. No, because it shouldn't be. If I'm in marketing, for example, I know a lot of people do not like what I'm saying, and I lead with the CX, I'm going to think indirectly, right, subconsciously from a marketing perspective, right? Same thing with IT. When it goes to IT, they're going to look at it from an IT perspective. They're still going to roll out, you know, best practices that is very common to every department, but they're still going to look at it from an IT perspective. So CX should be an isolated department that is actually a friend of every other department, because the other departments would learn a lot from the information that is coming up from CX and not the other way around. So you're not telling them what needs to be done, but you're actually getting their buy-in and showing them the fruits of working together on a proper CX strategy, and what are the value and the interest that you're going to get afterwards from understanding the customer, from probably it could lead to even, you know, changing the product or service or enhancing it, right? And this is what CX should be. It's not a function that it should be on a side that, you know, like a task, okay, check. It should be part of the company's vision. It should be a part of the OKRs, and you have continuous OKRs, continuous collaboration sessions, getting, again, what Hussein said, you know, stakeholders in each and every department, but not just stakeholders for the sake, I want you to be that. No, that person needs to have the passion and share the vision that the company has, and the gatekeeper, again, I'm stressing on, has on that CX initiative. And always before that is every department should understand what is CX in the first place.
I really had to jump here and comment on what Mu'taz said. During the Formula One in Abu Dhabi, I went and stayed in the Ritz-Carlton in hotel in Abu Dhabi in Yas. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Disneyland, but this is what this hotel made me feel. From the second I walked in till the minute I came back home, I had this inner, not peace, but inner joy inside of me, like a little kid discovering a new place. And the reason for that is what Mu'taz was saying. It was the feel that every single employee in that hotel gave me. It's something that you can't put your finger on. It wasn't about a solution. It was the overall experience. And this is where, if that does not exist in an organization, no matter what you do, you cannot deliver on customer. This is what customer experience is really about. It's about the tangible and intangible feelings. It's about really how you get out with a memorable, enjoyable experience out of spending time over there. I just needed to comment on what Mu'taz was saying, because it is important. And it's not about, it's in the hands of a manager or a director or a CEO. It starts from all layers from the organization. So unless everybody is very much aware of what the purpose is or what the customer experience mission is, it's very hard to deliver it, really. Because at the end of the day, a customer's touch point, and this is something very important. People, when they think of customer experience, they immediately think just digital. Digital is just one part of it. There is the digital and there is the physical. So they get to forget that at the end of the day, I call it human to human experience. I try to break the word customer, because we tend to forget that there's a human behind that customer. So at the end of the day, it's a human to human experience. And it all starts from the first touch point, be it digital or be it physical.
This is very insightful. This is very insightful, Hussein. My name is Ziad. I just wanted to comment on this. That proves nobody owns the experience itself. So just to define the terms, when we talk about the ownership, we need to differentiate between owning the experience or owning the CX function and whoever is providing that functional element of CX in terms of having a department for the customer experience. I agree with you, Hussein. Be it a patient, be it a traveler, be it whoever, we're all humans, and emotions is a very strong element that is always associated with the customer experience. Now, customer experience leaders need to demonstrate that soft power because they have to deal with all of those stakeholders and they don't have the authority to do that. And yet they need to be convincing, and to be able to do so, they need to turn to data. Data is going to be their ammunition to go to those stakeholders and have that argument with them, convincing them in a soft way. So it's always that soft power and the hard data that the CX leader needs to be equipped with always. And therefore, customer experience data is so crucial for CX leader to be able to cross-collaborate with everybody, demonstrating that soft power. Regardless who owns the customer experience function, I mean, think of it this way. Can we say who owns HR? Nowadays, everybody knows that there is an HR department. Can we say who owns IT? There is nowadays, everybody knows that there is an IT department. Same goes for marketing. It all depends on the maturity of the organization, what we call customer obsession. The leadership, the business units, the strategy people, the operations people, if they all put the customer at the center of their universe, and if they are all mature enough so that they know that their future, their growth is going to be impacted by that customer experience, then the organization maturity in terms of the customer obsession will dictate where the customer experience function will report to. It's just a personal opinion that I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Ayad. And Craig, I know that you wanted to comment on the emotions aspect of things.
Yeah, I'm a great advocate of putting emotion back into business, because at the end of the day, as Hussein says, we are humans dealing with humans. So I don't know why we strip emotion out as if it's something that it's not good to have, because in the experience economy, our products and goods don't cut it anymore. It's the experience that we provide that does. And it's not just the experience, it's what we feel inside having that experience. So to Hussein's example of the Ritz-Carlton, he felt all the way through good. And I spend a lot of time with luxury, high-end luxury brands, doing exactly that, moving them from being transactionally focused to being emotionally engaged. And it's super difficult when you sit with the C-suite who've got a marketing plan and a set of marketing behaviors through their values of the brand. And you say, well, how do you want people to behave to these values? Well, they're up there, they're 5 on the wall, you know? No, what do you want your guests or your clients or your customers to feel? And they're unable to articulate that. And we spend a bit of time with them. Once they've articulated that, let's say we want to create a sense of family, which one of the big luxury brands wanted to do. We work that sense of family right across the world. And it works culturally, because a sense of family in Beijing is very different to a sense of family in New York, and very, very different to a sense of family in Italy. But you get the consistency of the brand experience if people know how to create the feeling of a sense of family. And then you back that up by measuring from a client's perspective, did you have a sense of family when you went into that store or in that experience? And they say, yes, I did, because this and this and this happened. So suddenly all the emotional connection you want to have with your brand is there, but we don't use static words for that. We use emotion to bring it to life. So I think there's a lot of place for emotion in business. I don't think emotional, we know enough about customer happiness to know what emotional looks like, but how do we convey what our brand really wants to do in terms of how they want their clients or their guests to feel? And there's a lot of work to be done in that space, Because if I feel good about delivering that experience, I can create feelings for other people. And that's very good for business, because care and empathy is the new commercial currency.
And what a perfect quote to end this session on. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We've unfortunately run out of time. Thank you very much to Adel, Hussein, and Craig for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts, jumping in on the chat. We really appreciate you giving up your time and joining us in this conversation. We will be sharing the recording with everybody, so we'll be sending that link through to the email that you used to register for this webinar. So thank you once again to everybody. Thank you, Craig, Hussein, and Adel. We hope to see you again soon, and have a fantastic week and a fantastic 2022 as well. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Richard.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.